it's a pretty complicated process because we're trying to be all things to all people, and that means all genres like sci-fi, fantasy, horror, etc. That means all types of games, from first-person shooters to adventure games to puzzle games to AAA nostalgia and indie games. We really wanted to represent the world of gaming as much as we could.
It's a new adventure. Just for you.
This show really feels like the natural next step for Blur after years of doing these wonderful trailers and cinematics. How long has Secret Level been in the works?
It took us 3 years to make the show, but I think you're asking like how long did it take us to come up with the idea to make the show? And the answer to that is like it took too long. It seems so obvious that I had nothing to do with it. It was all Tim, but it does feel obvious.
Or all Tim's lack of perspicacity.
But I don't think I think if we had just gone out there and said, "Hey, we make great cinematics, let's put them all together in a show," I don't think it works without first building Love, Death, and Robots. I think that gave some real sort of creative clout to like we can put it all together and not fuck it up.
It's funny if you happen to talk to any lawyer who sees the show, they go, "How did you get all those game publishers to work together?" Like that's
Well, that leads actually into my next question, which is that can you talk a little bit about the process of choosing the video games featured? Was it like a list of what's available, or did you have to like hunt these things down and get approval?
As you can imagine, there's a lot of games that aren't available for reasons like they're under option, they're going to make a movie, a TV series, or whatever. Amazon was very forward thinking and not requiring some kind of long-term deal with the IP. It's basically just loan us your characters and your IP and we'll put it on the service, which is great because that opens the door for a lot of people to let us borrow it without feeling like we were going to wrap it up for months or years and do nothing with it. But it's a pretty complicated process because we're trying to be all things to all people, and that means all genres like sci-fi, fantasy, horror, etc. That means all types of games, from first-person shooters to adventure games to puzzle games to AAA nostalgia and indie games. We really wanted to represent the world of gaming as much as we could. So trying to get that mix right. You may answer all the questions in column A, but column C has been not serviced. So it's a lot of jockeying. And then Dave is very arrogant, and he thinks that the games that he loves
I was just
are the games
sitting here
that fit the show. And I think, the games I like best should be the ones that are in the show.
Well, and if there was any like one episode that you could expand into a full series, which would you guys choose?
Well, I know Dave's would be Warhammer, so.
I do. I have a fond affection for that franchise, but it's difficult. But yes, I'm not. I would probably pick Warhammer right now.
I might pick Warhammer too.
Well, this series made me realize that I really need a Mega Man movie because that whole episode, I was just blown away by how much it works.
That's great.
And yeah, well, and I have to ask too. It was
a tough. Yeah, that was a tough one. Yeah.
My fear with Mega Man is that there's not enough. I watched that. It ends with that iconic music, and I'm so pumped myself for more. And we made it, and it's like, but there isn't any more yet.
Yeah. That was actually a quick example of where we'd come up with a bunch. It was a hard one to crack, and we'd come up with a story that we felt was pretty interesting. That showed a variety of things without going into it. And the developer actually came back and said, "Do you think we could simplify this to something that is really just more the emotional core?" Which was an excellent.
And you came back and said, "I think we should." Wasn't
no, and then Fred came back or Stefan came back and said,
"Yes."
Well, Concord, it's a game featured on the show and was unfortunately canceled just 1 month after release. And given that you guys still had an episode to air, what was your reaction to that news?
Sorrow for all the people that worked on the game. It's a big effort. It was a big AAA game. and those people were super invested and very nice people, very creative people, and you're sorry when it doesn't work for them.
Yeah.
And who I don't understand the market completely and why some things work and they don't. But Dave and I have both had our share of failures and successes, and we know how hard it is to put yourself out there creatively. So we felt badly for them, but we didn't want to make it worse by also um, hiding the work that great artists and animators had done to make the episode, because we really like the episode. The story's great, feels like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
And it's a fun world. And so why not show it off? We have other episodes in there that games, nobody's making an Unreal Tournament game right now. So nobody's making a
Yeah.
Concord game either. So
Come in. You have a game to play.